Bigfoot, oh my. It's just another night for Supernatural Girlz. Real stories, real answers to life's biggest supernatural mysteries. And now for another exciting interview with paranormal experts from this world and others. Here's your host, paranormal researcher Patricia Baker, on the one, the only Supernatural Girlz.
Welcome, everyone, to another exciting show on Supernatural Girlz Radio. I am your host, Patricia Baker, and I am here with my fabulous co-host all the way from Tucson, Patricia Kirkman. PK, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good. You may lose me voice-wise a little way up, but I'm here.
Oh, you poor thing. I know you've got a little bit of a cold, and we can hear that straining
not so much
in your
cold,
voice.
It's the throat.
Oh, you poor
I
thing.
think somebody put some sandpaper down there.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Well, I know you've been
okay.
Great to suggest that honey and lemon for all of us that have struggled with the sniffles, etc. So I know you've been drinking that all day, right?
That I have. It's some chai tea with a little spice in it. That's helped a lot, too.
Sounds great. Well, that's all the good stuff you need. So
that's right.
Very, very good. So, I wanted to mention one of our advertisers, Ezra, from the High End. He's going to be coming on the show at the very beginning of the show next week because in Massachusetts, not in Arizona, but in Massachusetts, they passed the law that will allow recreational use of marijuana.
That's what I hear.
Yes. And we already have medical use, but now we're going to have recreational use. But of course, the laws are going to be is a big convoluted mess. But Ezra is coming on to explain pretty much what this means for people. And I know there are some people who want to use it medically and don't want to bother getting the certification. So this may be a door that opens for them for pain control and things like that. So Ezra's going to come on at the beginning of next week. So everybody that has questions about the legality and the timing and all of that, then just write them down and send it to us in the chat room or call in, and Ezra will answer all your questions.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Information is so important when we're talking about that subject.
Yeah, it really is. Everybody needs to be responsible and aware. So I know Ezra's the man. He's a great source of information. So he'll be with us next week. And you're going to be telling us about today and tomorrow from the numbers. What's going to happen? It's been a little quiet this week.
It's been very quiet.
I like it.
Oh, thank God we needed that. But today's been kind of one of those days when everybody feels a little worn out. Nobody really slept well last night. And a lot of dreams were ongoing and thoughts have been jumping in and out of our brains trying to figure out what to do and how to do it. But today, everybody just feels a little restless. They're not quite sure how to control what's going on. And they're too tired to really fight it to care. But tomorrow's going to be a different story. They're going to start getting all these ideas of things they need to do, but they can't do it tomorrow, of course, because it's a holiday and people are going to be spending time together. And let the business side set aside for a little bit and start working on some logical sides of working with each other for the remainder of this year. So a lot of strange things happening, and too many people are still very prickly about what we've just been through these last few months.
You mean the election? People are still up in arms?
Yes. Oh, dear. Yes. At least they've quit marching in the streets, at least that I've seen. So that's good. But it's just crazy, absolutely crazy. So the nice thing is, but
so it's calming down.
Yeah.
People are losing steam, which we knew they would, so that's good.
Eventually. And the nicest part is by Friday, people are going to be more open to embracing one another, looking at things in a more positive way. So once this month is over, people are going to start to feel less sensitive and much more into a let's get out and about time. And that's what's going to happen. December is going to be about sharing, caring, and really socializing a lot more than we've done for a long time.
Oh, that sounds good. Now, what about a spiritual aspect? Is there going to be more of a spiritual energy for December?
Most definitely, because people are starting to go back to what Christmas is really supposed to be about instead of this fake let's pretend stuff that we've been going through. They're going back to Merry Christmas, this type of thing, as opposed to just keeping it so.
Yeah, being politically correct, so you can't
exactly
express how you feel.
I think that's been kicked to the curb. Too many people are just really tired of it. They want to go back to the basics. And that's what we all need. The basics will get us through all this stuff. It is the end of the 9 years, so let's finish it up with get rid of what doesn't work and let's work on what can work starting in 2017.
I'm all for that. That sounds good. I can't believe it's already the end of the year. It just feels like it flew by.
Well, it didn't fly fast enough in some cases.
Yeah. Well, tonight we have a very special guest. And as I mentioned, this subject is just near and dear to my heart, dreams. And we have Andrew Holecek. We're going to bring him on in a few minutes after our paranormal news segment. He has a tremendous book, Dream Yoga. Now, there's a lot to this. And he is going to share all kinds of information, techniques. This is a very powerful thing. And I'm counting on Andrew to really inspire people in our audience to pay more attention to their dreams, to master these techniques, because it's so powerful. If you want a powerful change, you want to dream yourself awake, as Andrew talks about doing, this is going to be a way to do that. It's just an incredible book, and we both loved it. I know you did too. So
it's phenomenal. I didn't realize how much was involved with the dreaming stages until I started getting into Andrew's. My goodness gracious.
I know, he's tremendous. So we're lucky enough to have him here with us, and we're going to bring him on in just a minute. But first, did you happen to see that article I sent you? And it's on our Facebook page. This one blew my mind, I got to say. Now, if you guys haven't been to our Facebook page, you need to go there and take a look at what I posted about what was recently found on Mars. Mm-hmm. It is wild. This photograph, it just blew my mind. Now, some people say, well, maybe it's fake. I don't think it is. My gut feeling says this is for real. And it looks like a Martian soldier. Mm-hmm. That's what it looks like. Now, what did you think when you saw this thing?
I thought the same thing. And you know what I was thinking about in the Chinese, where they have all the soldiers lined up that were made out of stone to look like they had this huge army. That's what I was thinking when I saw that. I thought, oh my God, is that one of those? Until I looked at it again and went, oh my goodness, it's one of theirs, not one of ours.
Exactly. So this is something that Paranormal Crucible, which is a YouTube channel, spotted when they were looking through the NASA archives. Mm-hmm. So they have enhanced it. They show you how it looks from NASA, then they enhance it. Oh my gosh, please take a look. Go to our Facebook page, Supernatural Girlz with a Z. Give us a like while you're there and take a look at this photograph. And there's a video too that will show you the faraway look and then the close-up look. It's amazing. And I think it's the real deal.
It's scary to think we've got so much looking back at us, but we think we're the only one looking at them.
I know it. But I love this little picture. Mm-hmm. I love this little Martian.
As long as he stays in stone.
Yeah, he's all in stone. But it looks like he's got a formidable weapon in his hands, too.
Yes, he does. A pretty good size one, too.
Yeah, exactly. But anyways, go to the Facebook page, everybody. Check it out. It is beyond cool. The other thing is we reported, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, about a mysterious Arctic pinging noise that nobody could figure out where it's coming from. But now we have new information from Russian emails that are claiming this is from a crashed UFO. So
incredible, isn't it?
Well, yeah, because they were saying it's very unusual. They could not identify what it was or where it was coming from. But these apparently hunters and boaters have reported hearing a ping or a hum coming from the Arctic seafloor in northern Canada. And it's been scaring marine mammals and other wildlife away from the area. So this noise prompted the Canadian military to investigate, but all they reported was they found a few whales, walruses, but they didn't see anything else. But now these documents from State Department emails by the way of Russian WikiLeaks division, see this again, thank God for Julian Assange, they were saying it's a UFO is reported to have crashed through the Arctic ice and into the sea back in the year 2010. The UFO, or should now be called the USO, has apparently been operating in the Arctic waters ever since. So they are asking, is this what this noise is coming from? And they're saying maybe the Canadian military did find something during their investigation, but they're saying they found nothing, which is typical of a lot of governments. They're going to cover it up. So,
you think they do that?
No.
Oh, is there a Christmas present for that one?
Yeah, really. So anyway, so those are the two pieces of paranormal news. I think they're pretty cool tonight. So now,
very interesting.
Yes, indeed. Well, now we're going to learn. We're going to learn tonight, and we're going to learn things that are going to make your life transform. You're going to wake up, everybody. We're going to wake up. I can't wait to wake up. So we're going to bring on the show our guest for tonight, the author of Dream Yoga, Illuminating Your Life Through Lucid Dreaming and the Tibetan Yogas of Sleep, Andrew Holecek. Andrew, welcome to the show.
Hi, Patricia. So nice to be here.
Great to have you here with us. And my goodness, tell us, first of all, what got you into the dream thing? What intrigued you about this?
Yeah. Well, I've always had a very rich dream life, Patricia, as far back as I can remember, when I was involved in, at that point, the very early stages of the so-called developing New Age. And there was one particularly powerful experience, which I do relate in the book, where I just finished my kind of a double degree studies in music and science. And I took a year off to kind of figure out what I was going to do for the rest of my life. And during the course of this year, I started having quite a number of highly, prescient dreams that seemed to be anticipating something. And sure enough, somewhere around the middle of February, some 30-odd, actually at this point, 40 years ago, I had this kind of breakthrough experience, what the traditions sometimes refer to as metanoia, this kind of breakthrough into a really different dimension of reality. And a big part of it was an extraordinarily vibrant increase in lucid dreams, which of course is when you're in a dream and you wake up to the fact that you're dreaming. So you're still in the dream state, but you're aware of it. And so my nights were filled with more and more lucid dreams. And what was also very provocative is that during the day, I found my day to become increasingly more illusory or dreamlike until, as I relate in the book, about 2 weeks or so into the experience, I started to have a difficult time determining whether I was awake or asleep. And they may have been interesting for a little while, but it became increasingly disconcerting because what I originally thought might have been a glimpse into something resembling an awakened state started to feel more and more like a descent into madness or insanity because I was losing my grasp on what I thought was real because my dreams were as real as my waking reality. And so launched a really concerted effort to try to understand what that experience was about because it really transformed. It was one of those great blessed experiences that really does change your life. So it was a major before and after event. And so began really quite an extensive, exhaustive survey of the world's wisdom traditions, conjoined with my study of classic Freudian, Jungian, and psychoanalytic approaches to dreams, until I stumbled across the Tibetan Buddhist tradition. And when I realized they had a very elegant discipline on dream yoga, I really felt like I had come home. So in a nutshell, that was a real major launching pad for me.
Gosh, well, I have to give you credit because there's a fine line between, I think, awakening and madness. And you were stable enough, grounded enough to find your way through this. Not an easy thing to do.
No, not at all. And in fact, R.D. Laing, who's a really brilliant British psychiatrist, what I call a spiritual practitioner, he once said that, the mystic swims in the same ocean where the psychotic drowns. So there isn't.
Oh, yes.
What a phrase.
There is indeed a very close, fine line between psychosis and awakening. And I was fortunate enough to have friends that could guide me into arenas that created some sense of stability around an otherwise really quite disconcerting experience, because when the rug of reality is pulled out from under your feet, sometimes it can be, a little bit disconcerting for the contracted, constricted ego that always wants to have a sense of certainty underneath its feet. But at the same time, that sense of space, that's where avenues of insight and revelation and blessing can come forth. So I feel extraordinarily fortunate to have had that experience.
Yes, and I think that experience is also one of the many things that makes you a great teacher and mentor for other people who want to learn more about their dreams, because you've really been through the fire, haven't you?
Yeah, I have. That's one reason I do feel confident sharing my experiences, because I have been working in this arena quite devotedly for over 40 years now. And that, in conjunction with my insatiable appetite to read, I've devoured every book that's out there. And so this kind of confluence of kind of science and spirituality, East and West experience and doctrine have really given me a sense of personal conviction in what I've experienced, and also supported by, the increasing publication of books, articles, scientific papers on this topic, which, as you know, Patricia, is really gaining a lot of traction these days. I mean, lucid dreaming is, with the advent of its really scientific establishment in 1975 and then 1977 when it was scientifically proven, it's slowly taken on more and more scientific steam. And of course, as the Western scientific community continues to validate its potentials, it really kind of is developing exponentially. So we seem to be on a cusp of, I think, I don't want to sound too hyperbolic here, but really I see it the way yoga was about 30 years ago, a little bit how mindfulness meditation is now. Mindfulness meditation has really become the latest, I think, very healthy revolution. And in my estimation, I really don't think it's much of an exaggeration to say that when the lucid dreaming induction techniques are enhanced and refined, and this is largely a contribution from the West, that it really does have the potential to represent the pedagogy or the education of the future. Because, think about it. If you live to be 90 years old, you've spent about 30 of those years sleeping. You've spent about 7 of those years in the dream state. That's about 750 hours a year that we're really losing to non-lucid sleep. And if we can wake up in our dreams, and then I'd be happy to talk to you a little bit more about what one can actually do in the lucid dream state, the opportunities for rapid psychological and spiritual development are almost without peer. So I'd love to discuss that further with you.
Oh gosh, yes. We want to know how, we want to wake up.
Definitely. Definitely.
But here's a question for you, Andrew, from the chat room. This is from Carolyn, and Carolyn wants to know, are the dreams we remember actually much shorter than our mind perceives them?
No, they're not. It's interesting. They have done studies on this topic, and the studies have shown that dream time for the vast majority of our dreams is correlative with real time. Now, there are some exceptions to that, and that is when you start to step out of the regular kind of normative dream style, which takes place at the upper bandwidths of the unconscious mind. When you start to drop deeper into the unconscious mind, what some Buddhist schools talk about as the substrate consciousness. It's a beautiful word. Substrate means that which lies beneath, and it's provocative in a number of different usages. But the substrate mind can go very, very deep, and the lower bandwidths of the substrate mind can transform or start to bleed into what's called the clear light mind. And I explain this in some detail in the book because it helps people understand where dreams come from, why we fundamentally have nothing whatsoever to fear when we explore the darkness of our unconscious mind as it's revealed through the medium of our dreams. And the reason I interject this here is that when you start to drop especially spiritual practitioners who have more a familiarity with these deeper bandwidths of our heart mind. When you start to drop into these really deeper dimensions, then space and time really it doesn't no longer abide by the same rules as they do in waking physical reality. So, the short answer is science has shown that most of our dreams are in fact correlative with actual dream time until you start having these special types of dreams that are called dreams of clarity, or even deeper, what are called clear light dreams. And, if you wanted to discuss those later, we could. But when you start going into those really, what I call superconscious dreams, the clear light dreams, then everything changes, because you're dealing with a domain of reality that is no longer subject to the laws of physics and conventional reality as we know it.
Andrew, when a person says that they can't dream, or they don't dream, or they can never remember a dream, is that really true, or are they dreaming but just uninformed as to what they can remember?
Yes. Yeah, great question. Most people have at least 6 dreams a night. And when people say they don't dream, the vast majority of people really simply don't remember their dreams. And that's why one of the very first steps of kind of night school, as I call it, really developing the proficiency, the ability to have lucid dreams with regularity. One of the first things we do is cultivate increased dream recall. There are a few brain lesions that are associated with complete loss of dreaming. So there are certain instances through trauma and disease where literally some people do not dream. But the vast, vast, vast majority of the world's population has at least 6 dreams a night minimum. And Stephen LaBerge, who is really the father of scientific lucid dreaming in the Western world, has estimated that most people have around 500,000 dreams during the course of their lifetime. And that's a lot of dream time. And if we can obviously take advantage of these otherwise non-lucid states of consciousness and transform them into lucidity, that's, so as you were saying in the introduction, we can dream ourselves awake. It's a game changer. So most people do have at least 6 dreams a night, Patricia, but they just seem to forget them. And that's something that they can be trained otherwise. We definitely can learn how to have increased recognition of our dream frequency. And then once that's accomplished, we can start to step into having more lucid dreams altogether.
Sounds fabulous.
Yeah, and this is a process that, and we were all discussing this before we went live tonight. I find a lot of people are just lazy. They don't want to be bothered with this, and which I think is sad, because they're leaving so much power behind. I mean, as you mentioned, there's not only so many hours that we're dreaming and sleeping, but also that we're not making use of it.
That's right. Yeah, that's absolutely spot on, Patricia. And as I write in my book, and it's so true, both in my personal experience and also in teaching seminars around the world on this topic for quite a number of years now, is that I often tell people that sooner or later, these nocturnal meditations, by the way, lucid dreaming is just the first of 4 altogether, they reveal our passion for ignorance. And I am subject to that passion as well. I mean, there are times, I've been doing this for decades, and there are still times when I just say, you know what, forget it. I don't want to do anything tonight. Honestly, I just prefer to be stupid. And at least I'm consciously stupid, right? At least I'm bringing some lucidity to my stupidity. But it's very interesting, because dreams are really both the moniker in classic dream yoga, lucid dreaming, and even in psychology, dreams are truth tellers. And I find it very revealing that many people, in fact, do not want to penetrate the mysteries of the night. And darkness, of course, is a code word for ignorance, really. And very many people are afraid, especially because they don't know what to expect. They don't know what's down there, so to speak. They don't know the rich potentialities, this vast natural resource that we have within us. So they really run away from these profound opportunities for transformation. And I think they do that in large part because ego really hangs out in the dark. I mean, its ultimate sanctuary is ignorance. Ego is the archetype of ignorance. And when we get lost in sleep, it's actually where ego goes to recharge. It's what we call in Sanskrit, it's samsaric batteries. Samsara is a kind of set in contradiction to or contradistinction to nirvana, the world of conditionality and suffering. So this is where ego goes to recharge. Lots of people that really don't want to wake up. We may profess that we want to wake up in this lifetime, and I'd love to talk to you further about the extraordinary potentialities that lucid dreaming and dream yoga hold in this regard. But it's a very interesting kind of bipolar thing that I've discovered in a lot of psychospiritual practitioners, where there is indeed part of us and our kind of evolutionary bandwidth, the bandwidth of our own identity. There is part of us that wants to wake up and improve and attain this thing, so-called enlightenment. But there's a large part of us, this kind of lower infrared bandwidth of our identity, that really prefers to be asleep, prefers to be stupid. And when you engage,
true.
Haven't you noticed that? I mean, it's like, it's like you can work on me during the day, but don't work on me while I'm sleeping. And the minor inconvenience that lucid dreaming and dream yoga can provide, it is a minor inconvenience, truly, once you understand the mechanics. That minor inconvenience leads to major realization. And this point, I think, is really important, Patricia. And that is that when you're working with the lucid dreaming state, it's a very unique state of consciousness where sometimes referred to as a hybrid state of consciousness, where the conscious mind can face the unconscious mind directly. And there's really no other state. I mean, hypnosis to some degree, yeah, but only about less than, around 8% of people are really hypnotizable. But the reason one of the reasons I encourage people to try these nocturnal meditations is that when you're working with your mind as it's revealing itself in the dream state, you're working with what I refer to often as the tectonic plates of your experience. You're working with the bedrock of your reality, your unconscious mind. And as everybody since Freud can tell you, unconscious processes dictate so-called conscious activities. And, backstage always runs on stage, whether we know it or not. And when you're working with the lucid dreaming state, you can transform the deeper parts of your being, your unconscious mind, more directly than you can in so-called waking reality. And there are many, many meditation masters who, we shouldn't take these numbers too literally. They're kind of archetypal numbers, but there are many practitioners, the masters, that will tell you that the practices and the meditations you do in a lucid dreaming state are 9 times more transformative or effective than what you do in your waking life. And this is why we have to be a little careful to overhype it and to sell it. But at the same time, we have to be honest and realistic that the potentialities for transformation as we sleep and dream they're actually more pregnant with opportunity than the so-called waking state. Because in the waking state, this is the most reified, the most solidified, the most concretized dualistic state of consciousness. And as we drop into the dream state, it becomes increasingly non-dual. And then we haven't talked about this yet, but the ability to actually maintain full awareness in the deep dreamless state, which is what sleep yoga is about, that is the most transformative of all states of consciousness. And so what you do down there, so to speak, has monumental effects on what happens up here. And I can attest to this in my own experience. So that's one of the things I like to share with people is, like, often people say, well, why should I bother with this? My life is already so full.
They have a lot of arguments about it.
So that's one reason.
Well, I love your explanation, and certainly it's a path. It's a path to enlightenment if people want to take it. But like you said, there is this addiction to our own ignorance and not wanting to spend the time on. I can't tell you how many people I've talked to dream analysis about and dream, just understanding your own dreams, how important that is. And they don't want to spend the time on it. They don't want to keep a dream journal. They don't want to pay attention. They're like, look, at the end of the day, I just want to go to sleep.
That's right. So, yeah, it's so true.
I'm amazed. Because I love listening to my dreams. And I have a quick story to share when we come back from our very short break. But we're going to take a very short break, everybody. And we're going to come back. We're going to learn some of these techniques tonight on what you can do before you sleep tonight. Just tonight, you can start how to do these things to make your dreams more recognizable to you, so you remember them in the morning, and how to work with them more effectively.
listening to IRN, the Inception Radio Network, Chicago, Illinois.
You didn't forget what's coming up tonight, did you? Hi, Inception Radio Network listeners. This is Amanda. Never miss that interview you were looking forward to or the show on your favorite topic. Follow IRN on Twitter, I_R_N, and get reminders about the evening's live shows as well as fun and important updates throughout the week. That's I_R_N, and never miss a great show again.
My name is Ezra, and I'm from thehighend.org. You've heard of medical marijuana, but who can you trust for proper guidance? Here at thehighend.org, we have all the information you need. Did you know that scientists have discovered cannabis can reduce inflammation, pain, and spasms? It's helped my patients reduce the symptoms of autoimmune diseases, PTSD, autism, and insomnia. A compound from hemp called CBD is doing wonders for intestinal issues, anxiety, and the nervous system. I sell this compound at thehighend.org. I've worked as a medical marijuana consultant and educator for the past 6 years, and here at thehighend.org, I can help you choose from the hundreds of cannabis strains and products and find the ones that are best for your needs. To learn more about cannabis, schedule a Skype or phone consultation, or to have a CBD product shipped right to your door, visit thehighend.org. That's thehighend, all one word, .org. I'll help make your health high-end.
Hi, can you hear my voice? Imagine how many other people can hear it too. If you have advertising needs, then look no further. The Inception Radio Network currently has openings for on-air advertisements and radio show sponsorships. Given any thought to your target demographic? Inception has you covered there too. Advertising on a network gives you multiple opportunities to advertise on a wide variety of radio show broadcasts, and we have one to fit every advertising need. You know, in recent years, internet radio has exhibited a phenomenal listener growth. An Arbitron Edison survey shows that online radio boosts at least 33 million unique visitors each week and 54 million each month. And that number amazingly continues to grow. And these listeners are a part of many businesses' core demographics. And surveys have shown that internet radio listeners are far more likely than regular radio listeners to spend money on a whole range of activities. You know, internet listeners vote, they dine out and eat fast food, and they grab a cup of coffee. And here's the interesting one. They buy items online at a much higher rate than all other market segments combined. Internet radio also enables businesses to connect with consumers during work hours, where increasingly more lifestyle decisions are being made. Advertise with the best. The Inception Radio Network offers competitive advertising rates to fit just about anyone's advertising budget. Stop by today at www.inceptionradionetwork.com or call us toll-free at 1-888-919-2355. Get the word out. Get results with the Inception Radio Network.
Are you a fan of Inception Radio Network? Do you reckon it's the best alternative talk radio station on the planet? Well, if you do, head to facebook.com/Inception Radio Network and like the page. Tell your friends, spread the word, and keep listening to the best.
Hello, Inception Radio Network listeners. This is Amanda. Remember, you can take your Inception radio shows on the go. Just download the Inception Radio Network app for your iPhone, iPad, or Android smartphones and access live shows, past shows, guest lineups, and much more. Just visit the iTunes Store or the Google Play Marketplace and download it today for free.
Your property tax bill. Have you seen it lately? It's frightening. Your property taxes are going up while your home value is going down. It's time to fight back and win. For the real truth about the property tax system, get attorney Pat Quintilian's book, Are You Getting Screwed on Your Property Taxes? How to Find Out and How to Fix It. Attorney Quintilian answers all your questions and gives you the facts you need to fight a property tax bill that is spiraling out of control. You'll also read about what happens to property owners who don't check their property records, only to find out too late they're taxed on square footage, fixtures, and even buildings that they don't own. Is this happening to you? Learn your rights. Buy attorney Pat Quintilian's book today. Are you getting screwed on your property taxes? How to find out and how to fix it. Available on Amazon.com.
Welcome back, everyone. You are listening to Supernatural Girlz Radio. I'm your host, Patricia Baker, here with my co-host, all the way from Tucson, PK, and our incredible guest tonight, Andrew Holecek, who is the author of many books. But tonight we're talking about dream yoga, illuminating your life through lucid dreaming and the Tibetan yogas of sleep. So I did tell you, I have a short story to share with everybody about a dream I had.
Good.
So here's what happened. And I was telling PK about this earlier. I woke up on the beginning of the week last week, Monday morning, and I felt like somebody hit my nose with a baseball bat. It hurt so bad. And nothing hit me. I couldn't blame anybody. There was no injury, but yet my nose really hurt. So I just couldn't figure it out. And a couple of days went by, and then the bridge of my nose started getting red. And then I had this dream because I wanted to know, what is this? So I went to bed. I'm like, okay, what is this? What do I have? And I had a dream that I was looking at a webbing of white, and there were bugs in it. So I woke up in the morning, remembered the dream, and I knew I had an infection. Sure enough, I did. I had something I'd never even heard of before called nasal cellulitis, which could actually be kind of dangerous. It has to be treated with antibiotics. But my dream gave me that information when I didn't consciously have any idea what this was. And I'm sure that my dreamy mind gave me a very clear picture of what this infection actually looked like. So I was amazed. I was like, wow, I still got it.
Yeah.
And your husband was grateful you found out what it was and not him.
That's right. He was very grateful. He even picked up my prescription for me. How about it? So, but again, I think the possibilities, as we've been talking with dreams, giving us answers to questions that we may not have any other way to get to. The dreaming mind will find a way to get you those answers, right?
Yeah, it's a great story, Patricia, and it's really resonant with a lot of the literature. I mean, there's so many stories. There's countless. I mean, there's one in particular in Oliver Sacks' book, "The Man Who Mistook His Wife for His Hat." Where this woman has this dream, this dream of premonition that in fact did come true. So what you share is really compelling, and it really points to the benefits that we can have if we start to believe in the dream state more, start to open avenues of conversation really with our deeper aspects. And Carl Jung actually talked about this with tremendous elegance, and the Buddhist tradition talks about it with equal kind of spiritual force, using a different vocabulary, and that is that very often experiences will arise in these deeper bandwidths of our being. In a kind of Eastern terms, we talk about karma ripening in these deeper bandwidths of our being, and very often this karmic ripening can be detected if, in fact, we have a sensitive relationship to our dreams in the dream state. So Carl Jung said that very often you can literally quite literally save your life by listening to some of these dreams, which can in fact predict and portend actual physical experiences. And again, if you read the literature at all, it's replete with stories exactly like yours. And this is no small thing, because it's as if you're in the dream state, you're working with a the DNA of your experience or the blueprints of your reality. And if you can kind of get the lesson, so to speak, at the level of the blueprints before it comes into full manifest construction, so to speak, in so-called waking physical reality, you can purify these karmic seeds in the dream state. That's a big part of what spiritual dream yoga practice is about. And you can actually circumvent and literally save your life or others. And you can do this serendipitously, like your dream was, but I think, your own spiritual sensitivity, of course, was involved in that. You can do this through dream incubation for yourself. This is a classic practice that goes back to the ancient Egyptians and the Greeks. And then even more provocatively, you can become a surrogate dreamer and incubate dreams that can be of benefit for others. So the reason I talk about all this is that when I approach these nocturnal meditations, it's much more than what just happens when you dream. The image I often use is as if you're, been standing in a really bright room for the evening, and all of a sudden you decide to step outside for a little break. You step outside and it's pitch black, and when you first look out, you can't see anything. It's just jet black out there.
Right.
But if you keep your eyes open for a while, of course, we've all had this experience. Sooner or later, all this stuff that's been there all along starts to become visible. And in exactly the same way, these nocturnal practices are about learning how to keep you could almost say your third eye, it doesn't matter which metaphor you use, but they're about keeping your inner eye open so that it acclimatizes to the dark. And if you do that, I promise you, if you keep your inner eye open and you simply look within, you will start to see things you've never seen before that have always been there and that can really change the trajectory of your life.
God, that's great. It's all of this is so powerful. Again, I'm so glad you're here to inspire all of us to take this path. It's a wonderful path to be on. That's for sure. Now, we've got a whole bunch of questions coming in the room. So let me ask you a few of them, and then I would love for you to talk a little bit about insomnia and your thoughts on that, as well as we need to know your technique. So we got to get to we could just keep you here, Andrew.
Rubbing our little hands together. We can't learn enough fast enough.
I know. Well, here's a question. Let's see. This is from Carolyn. Wants to know, is it possible to synchronize a dream subject with a partner? So I don't know if Carolyn's talking about surrogate dreaming or what.
Yeah, great question, Carolyn. There are several ways to look at that. And again, of course, the Western scientific community would categorically dismiss that for the simple reason that they always equate mind with brain and, where the brain resides, the mind resides. And so things like congruent dreams are really not possible. There are two things to distinguish here. One is the difference between an actual shared dream and a shared theme. What tends to happen more frequently are what I refer to as these shared themes, where people that are closely connected, intimates, people who have obviously strong karmic connections, there can often be kind of thematically oriented dreams that people can seemingly share in the same mind space, but really are just shared dream themes. Now, with that said, in my understanding and experience, yes, you can have shared dreams. And on one level, as a sidebar topic that maybe we can come back to later, whether we know it or not, we are all sharing the same world dream that we call waking reality. It's just it's what's called a primary dream, of which the nighttime dream is just the secondary dream, but that's a slight sidebar. But yes, you can in fact have dreams where, depending on which system you look, the what's called the special dream body in Tibetan Buddhism is obviously associated with what we in the West call out-of-body experiences and astral travel, where the special dream body can dissociate temporarily from the physical body and can therefore travel to different locations and even have interactions with other people who have that same kind of capability. So, in short, you can have definitely a shared dream. Most of these, I would argue, are usually shared themes, but shared dreams are definitely within the scope of my understanding.
Terrific. Okay, and here is a question from Sherry. Sherry would like to know, can you tell us if we can use some of your techniques while under prescription medication for sleep disorders?
Yeah, good question. Depends on which medication. It depends on which sleep disorder. There are at least 75 classified sleep disorders, of which something like 72 million Americans alone suffer from. Insomnia, of course, is the most prominent. So it would depend, Sherry, on which medication you are taking. And what I do with this particular topic is, obviously, I approach this discipline principally from a so-called psycho-spiritual perspective, but I'm also trained in the medical field, and I work a lot with sleep disorder, sleep apnea, sleep medicine. And it's always good before you engage in this type of practice to consult with your healthcare professional. Obviously, it's a little bit tricky on where you live, whether you'll have an open reception to things like lucid dreaming or they'll look at you completely askance. But there are some contraindications to lucid dreaming. If people have certain dissociative tendencies, lucid dreaming may not be the best practice for you. If you're struggling with certain so-called mental disorders, whether they're organic or psychological, absolutely positively helps to consult with your health professional. And so what the approach I take, Sherry, is what's often referred to these days as a broad spectrum or integral approach, where I try to honor all the different systems that come into play for lucidity or lack thereof. And that includes things like biology, that includes things like psychology, spirituality, sociology, culture, and that sort of thing. And so I would have to ask you more specifically what the medication is, what it's being treated for, and this may not be the best proper medium for that. So in a nutshell, that's one way that I approach these.
And people can reach you, Andrew, on your website. And
Yes.
if they wanted to have a consult with you or work with you in your course,
Yes.
all of that is on your website, which is andrewholecek.com, right?
That's correct. Thank you for that. Yep.
Yes, absolutely. And here's another question along the same line. And this is from Kalatu, who is saying, could you use dream therapy to treat or influence a person with deep psychosis challenges?
Yeah. Boy, oh boy. See, there again, we have to be really careful. There's a very interesting pathology that sociologists refer to that's really worth discussing here because it has so much applicability, and it's what's called single action bias. And what this means is that it's very easy, it's almost an egoic propensity for people to default into one particular discipline or tradition at the exclusion of all others. And this is, of course, is why I like things like integral theory and integrated thinking. And so in the context of your question, when you're dealing with these, kind of heavier states of mind, things like schizophrenia and psychosis, and I have some real familiarity with this because my dear sister, who I adore, is a institutionalized schizophrenic. So this is not an abstract. This is not an abstract topic to me. And so when you're dealing with things like psychosis, and again, it depends on what type of psychosis. One of the definitions of that, of course, is an inability to detect what reality is. And so it's a lack of contact with reality. If that's the case, lucid dreaming may not be the best thing because, it says, I think Jack Engler, the great psychiatrist from Harvard, once said, in terms of these kind of spiritual practices, you have to be somebody before you can be nobody. And what he's talking about there is that you have to have a stable sense of identity, even though it's a provisional sense of identity. You have to have a stable sense of identity. Otherwise, as we alluded to in the outset with R.D. Laing's quote, the mind can dissociate and slip into psychotic states where reality is not just questioned, which can be very healthy, as we know in spiritual terms, but reality is undermined altogether, and that's not healthy. So what I would recommend is in a situation like that, you start with the organic. You start with the kind of the bottom of the evolutionary ladder, in my opinion. Make sure that things are okay from a biological perspective, from an organic perspective. Make sure you have that kind of support. If you do, then you can start to work your way up to these more refined so-called psycho-spiritual techniques. But I'm always very realistic and very cautious that people don't put all their eggs in one basket, the single action bias. Don't think that meditation is going to solve all your problems. Don't think that X is going to handle everything, because we're much, much too complicated beings than that. We exist along a broad spectrum of identity and development. And if we, align ourselves too strongly with just one methodology, that's an area just ripe with problems. And there's so much we could say about that, but in a nutshell, that would be my advice.
No, that's good advice. Yeah, excellent. So let's talk a little bit about insomnia. There's a lot of people, as you mentioned, what did you say, 72 million that suffer from insomnia?
Well, they suffer from sleep disorders altogether. Yeah, of which insomnia is probably the biggest basket in that department.
The biggest one.
Yeah. So there's insomnia is a very interesting state, and there's a number of ways to work with it. It's a big topic, so maybe cut me off if I start talking too much. Yeah,
well, just basically, if you can give us a shorter version on it, because we do want to know a little bit about how you perceive it, where it comes from.
Sure.
And then what you would suggest if you had a client come to you.
Absolutely.
Because obviously insomnia is going to be a big impediment to dreaming.
Yes, exactly. So, there again, it's a big topic. We can talk a little bit about how it might have its origins in a second. But really, in my opinion, one of the most important things with insomnia, as it is really, I would argue, with almost any problematic situation, is altering our relationship to it. Because usually what happens with insomniacs is they end up developing a contentious or adversarial relationship to their own mind. In other words, I'm sure we've all had this experience where you wake up and all of a sudden, you realize, oh no, there it is again. And, your mind just starts to spin it out and all the crazy stream and floods of thoughts that we have that keep us awake just become unnecessarily problematic when we start to resist that experience. And so what I recommend is just something certainly worth experimenting with, is change the relationship to the experience altogether and realize that, and this is a very profound meditative instruction, by the way, maybe a little bit hard to believe initially, but I really invite you to take a look. And that is that there is nothing inherently problematic with anything that arises in our mind, whether it's a crazy mind in meditation or whether it's a crazy mind in the middle of the night. The problem is inappropriate relationship to that arising. And so the way that I might suggest people work with it is, first of all, have that view and understanding, and then try to create a larger, what's called holding environment. It's a very interesting set of teachings by the great British psychiatrist Donald Winnicott. I'm a huge fan of his work. And he talks about creating a loving, holding environment for a number of different reasons. But in this regard in particular, the idea is to create a more spacious, accommodating, and you could even say loving relationship to the contents of your mind. Because really, I invite you to look at this as well. I always argue that thoughts and whatever arises in our mind, thoughts are the children of our mind. And, if we're good parents, we're not going to abuse our children. We're not going to, hurt them. We're going to love them and accommodate them. So what I recommend, it's just as an experimentation, is that when you're feeling this insomnia coming on, you can almost recite as a mantra, you can almost say to yourself as a mantra, love your mind. Love your mind.
Wow.
What it does is it completely flips this usual knee-jerk adversarial relationship we have, which is like, oh, crap, here it is again. And we tie ourselves in the knots trying to just, unwind. So this is what I do. I wake up and my mind is speedy. And I, believe it or not, I actually celebrate the occasion. I sit back or lie back and I go, wow, this is amazing. Look at what my mind can do.
Look at these gymnastics.
Yeah, isn't that true? Look how many thoughts I can have here. This is amazing. And then, that transformation in relationship, creating this larger holding environment and sense of spaciousness, that in itself is transformative. So with that as a kind of a working kind of template, in terms of insomnia. The other practice I would strongly recommend here, of course, and I'm sure many of your listeners, Patricia, here do this, is develop some type of meditation practice, because meditation really is all about changing and developing a more sophisticated relationship to the contents of your mind. And as you sit in meditation, you notice that fundamentally your thoughts are not problematic. You notice that they, if you just leave your thoughts alone, they're like campfire sparks dissolving into the night sky. They are fundamentally harmless. They only become problematic when we throw the gasoline, our intention onto the spark. And then all of a sudden, ka-whoosh, isn't it true? They just explode and we're lost in some fantasy.
That's right.
and we're completely,
Here we go.
Here we go. So
singed one more time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, there's so much to say about this. One thing, and then we can pause and Patricia, you can guide me further, but I think this bears a little bit of reference in the Eastern approach to lucidity, and it's one of the things I really stress in the book is not only Western approaches, but also Eastern approaches. They talk, and I'm sure many of you know about these subtle winds. It's called prana, chi, lung. There are a number of different ways. Elan vital, this kind of subtle wind that animates the body and the mind. In the Buddhist tradition, these winds, this lung or prana, is actually what brings about the movement of thought. In fact, when those winds of mind are blowing, we know that as thought. So when we go to sleep at night, it's a very interesting play on words. When we go to sleep at night, we unwind. But the deeper kind of inner meaning of that is we literally unwind. And the winds actually dissipate. And as the winds dissipate, which you can notice is physical diminution of your respiration, your thoughts start to diminish. And any meditator will know this. When your thoughts start to settle, you'll notice that your respiration settles. So what happens when we wake up in the middle of the night is the winds kick back up. We've gotten windy again. We're all wound up again. So just by understanding that process, that phenomenology, we can again start to establish a more playful relationship to insomnia. It's like, oh, wow, look how windy my mind is right now. And then several specific techniques, again, you can play with it, see what works for you. There's a very interesting practice that actually has people visualize two black pearls on the bottom of their feet. And the reason for this is very compelling from the inner yoga point of view. The reason for this is that when we're in the waking state, these winds have actually gathered in the head chakra, in the head center. When we fall into deep, dreamless sleep, meditation, or even death for that matter, the winds gather in the heart chakra, the Dharma chakra. When we dream, the winds gather in the throat chakra, what's called the Sambhoga chakra. And so what you can do, and again, I just see if it works for you. If it does, great. If not, just throw it out the window. Is in addition to creating this larger kind of sense of accommodation and love for the contents of your own mind, you can play with visualizing these two black pearls at the bottom of your feet. And the reason you want to do that from an inner yoga point of view is that you are actually drawing the winds down from your head towards your heart center by visualizing these black pearls at your feet. And very often what I notice is it will in fact seduce my mind from my head chakra back to my heart chakra. And the correlative experience of that, of course, is I descend back into sleep. So there's so much more to say about this, but maybe that's enough for now.
Yeah, I think that's terrific. Again, I know so many people who either have suffered from it or intermittently or currently are suffering with that. And it just makes for a huge problem in their lives. But certainly they really can't get a handle on their dreams, and they're missing out that whole aspect of their lives. So thank you for sharing all of that. It's great information. I'm just going to run through Ramona's experience because she just has a comment, and then go to break. And Ramona says, my brother told me I was coming into his dreams. I was skeptical, but told him if I was, that I would tell him something to remember that night in his dreams, and he was to call me the next day and tell me what I told him. I didn't know until I went to bed what I would tell him. I am no longer a skeptic. The exact words.
Yeah,
that was a great experience, Ramona.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
That's terrific. Goodness me.
Terrific.
Well, there's again, this is, as you've mentioned so many times, it's such a rich landscape. People really need, I think, to make a commitment to it. It's a great way to unhook from the matrix, to be independent, to find out who you really are, all of those terrific things. And it really doesn't take that much effort. Let's face it. I mean, you're going to go to sleep anyways. You're going to have dreams anyways. Why not remember them?
That's right.
Work with them. You got
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So we are going to take another quick station break, and then we're going to come back. And this time, I know PK and I want to hear the methods. What
Yes.
do we need to do, right, to wake up? We want to hear all about it. And your book is wonderful. Again, everybody should get this book, Dream Yoga, Illuminating Your Life Through Lucid Dreaming and the Tibetan Yogas of Sleep. Well, you are listening to Supernatural Girlz Radio. We'll be right back.
Listening to IRN, the Inception Radio Network, Chicago, Illinois.
Hi, Inception Radio Network listeners. This is Amanda. Just a reminder that Inception Radio Network is on Twitter. Follow us at I_R_N and keep up to date about who's on tonight, what interviews they'll be doing, who's guest spotting, what topics they'll be covering. Tweet to us, tweet about us, retweet topics to your friends, and most importantly, never miss a great show again. That's I_R_N.
Have a computer? Is your internet connection down? Don't worry. Use your trusty cell phone or landline and call into our listen line at 401-283-6700 to listen to the Inception Radio Network 24/7. Again, that call-in number is 401-283-6700. For the Inception Radio Network, I am MJ.
My name is Ezra, and I'm from thehighend.org. You've heard of medical marijuana, but who can you trust for proper guidance? Here at thehighend.org, we have all the information you need. Did you know that scientists have discovered cannabis can reduce inflammation, pain, and spasms? It's helped my patients reduce the symptoms of autoimmune diseases, PTSD, autism, and insomnia. A compound from hemp called CBD is doing wonders for intestinal issues, anxiety, and the nervous system. I sell this compound at thehighend.org. I've worked as a medical marijuana consultant and educator for the past 6 years, and here at thehighend.org, I can help you choose from the hundreds of cannabis strains and products and find the ones that are best for your needs. To learn more about cannabis, schedule a Skype or phone consultation, or to have a CBD product shipped right to your door, visit thehighend.org. That's thehighend, all one word, .org. I'll help make your health high-end.
Hello, Inception Radio Network. Would you like your favorite show to be played again live on air? Well, now the choice is in your hands with IRN's live request portal, an easy way to request your favorite show with a simple click. IRN's live request portal now gives you exclusive access to all the shows. How easy is it? Simply type a show name or a guest name, click request, even write a dedication message, and that's it. Try it now. Simply visit InceptionRadioNetwork.com, click on the live request tab under the show menu. Now playing your favorite show is just a mouse click away.
Are you a fan of Inception Radio Network? Do you reckon it's the best alternative talk radio station on the planet? Well, if you do, head to facebook.com/Inception Radio Network and like the page. Tell your friends, spread the word, and keep listening to the best.
Are you ready for a new experience of freedom and powerful connection? Would you like a positive, effortless change in your life? Then come to CosmicFusion.com, where we offer the most advanced energy clearing and expansion techniques in the world, with a quantum vortex energy to activate your divine blueprint and life's purpose. When your soul leads the way with cosmic fusion and quantum vortex energy, you can break clear of past difficulties and blocks with the power of the source. With cosmic fusion, the source energy does the work for you. It's easy and effortless. Listen to our free meditation right from our Cosmic Fusion website, the Cosmic Code Meditation. Sign up for one of our interactive webinars today. Come to Cosmic Fusion, www.kosmicfusion.com, to experience an effortless awakening and transformation. Are you ready for an upgrade? Are you ready for a new experience of living in the fifth dimensional magic and powerful connection? Then visit CosmicFusion.com today. CosmicFusion.com.
Welcome back, everyone, to Supernatural Girlz Radio. I'm your host, Patricia Baker. I'm here with my co-host, PK, and our tremendous guest tonight, Andrew Holecek. He is the author of Dream Yoga, Illuminating Your Life Through Lucid Dreaming and the Tibetan Yogas of Sleep. So now, Andrew, do tell. What do we need to do so that we can wake up?
We're sitting on the edges of our chair here.
We need to know. You're the man to tell us. So, what do we do?
Sure. Well, there's several ways to go at this. First is to understand what I call the so-called super techniques. And these are techniques that really create what I call the fields of dreams. So you remember in the movie with Kevin Costner, Field of Dreams?
Yes.
If you build it, he will come. So the idea here is that if you create this field of dreams with these so-called super techniques, which you'll see they're very straightforward, if you build this field, lucid dreams will come. So here's the first one, believe it or not, is in fact believing in them, having the power of belief. You will see it when you believe it. So a really big part of the reason we don't have lucid dreams is we don't believe in them. We don't believe in the power and the validity of the mind as it reveals itself in the dream state, let alone in the lucid dream state. So the first thing I do is encourage people to, just believe that this is in fact entirely possible for you. The second super technique is intention. The word, I'm a big fan of word origin. So the word origin of intention literally means to stretch towards. And so what you do, it's a type of incubation where during the day, and especially as you're going to sleep, you just develop with tremendous resolve. You don't just flap your lips. You really mean it. You put an emotional, what I call octane to your intent. You put some emotional charge into it and you say, tonight, darn it, tonight I'm going to have many dreams. I'm going to have good dreams. I'm going to remember my dreams. I'm going to wake up in my dreams. And isn't it true how often if you have to catch a flight, you don't have an alarm clock, you have to get up, you don't have an alarm clock, I'm sure we've all had the experience that if you set a proper intent, it's just as good as setting a literal alarm.
Yes.
So the power of intention is huge. This, of course, can be augmented by doing things like creating, dream journaling and that sort of thing. The third super technique is meditation, and I cannot overstate the importance of meditation. And this is very interesting data. When I do this, I teach these programs around the world. I do these informal polls all the time. And I often ask, especially in the meditation community, how many people here have had a lucid dream? And absolutely, there's a direct proportionality. Meditators have more lucid dreams.
No kidding.
Absolutely. Huh. It's been scientifically studied and proven. Advanced lucid dreamers have advanced lucid dreams. Meditation masters have lucid dreams all the time. And here's the reason why it makes so much sense. If you take a look at your mind, you will discover, and some scientists have actually put numbers to it, that we are non-lucid too. And lucidity here is, again, another code word for awareness. We are unaware of or non-lucid too up to 99% of what's taking place in our mind. There's usually, just look at your mind. There's usually this constant stream of, it's like a CNN trailer, this constant stream of subconscious gossip, this thought that's always running by, to which we are completely non-aware. So Kabir once said this, a great poet once said this in relationship to death, but it also applies to the dream state when he said, what is found then is found now. So the reason, this is so compelling, the reason we're non-lucid to our dreams is because we're non-lucid to our mind during the day. And here's the logic behind it, so just to show you. Thoughts are to waking consciousness as dreams are to dreaming consciousness. So if we're non-lucid to our thoughts during the day, we're naturally going to be non-lucid to our dreams during the night. So by becoming more lucid, if you want to become more lucid at night, become more lucid during the day. So the great super technique, of course, is meditation. So with those three, then I'll give you one last one, and then we can chat about this. This one has been scientifically studied and proven to increase the chances of lucidity up to 2,000%. That's a 20-fold increase.
That's a good one.
And it's based on the logic of dream cycles and how it is that as we go through the night, about 2 hours before we would normally wake up, we're in what's called primetime dream time. We're mostly in REM sleep when dreams occur. That's the time to really ramp up your efforts. So the technique here is very simple. And what you do is you set your alarm to go off about 2 hours before you would normally wake up. And you have to play with this. You become your own meditation instructor here. You see what works for you. Some people it may be 2.5, 3 hours before. Some people it might be an hour and a half. But 2 hours is kind of the sweet spot. You set your alarm to go off about 2 hours before you normally wake up. You stay up for about 20 minutes. Don't go to a computer. Don't check your phone. Don't turn on any electric gadgets. You could actually sit and do a little gentle meditation, or you could read about lucid dreaming very gently. You don't want to get too windy. And then literally just by staying up for 20 minutes and then going back to sleep with a reset intention of wanting to have lucid dreams, studies have shown that because you're interrupting or inserting this intention in primetime dream time, the chances of lucidity are dramatically increased. And my experience has certainly borne that out. So those are the principal ones. Creating a very powerful belief system around it. You will see it when you believe it, increasing the strength of your intention, stretching your mind into the dark, developing a daily meditation practice. Those three alone are monumentally important. And then that very specific is called wake and back to bed technique. That one technique alone is phenomenally powerful. And then, of course, in my book, I list at least a dozen other ones that you can augment and support this one. But in the briefest possible terms, those are the techniques I would recommend as being the most effective.
Well, I think we can do that, right, PK? We can give this a try.
I'm usually up. I don't need to set the alarm.
But then you need to go back to sleep. That's all.
Right.
Remember that, the important part.
That's the key.
Yeah, this is great. Well, I can't wait to try these things and see what happens. I mean, it's all, it's free. Guess what? We don't have to pay anything for this. It's just basically making a commitment to doing it and wanting to get some results.
Getting in touch with yourself in a new way.
Yes, an easy way.
Yeah.
It's really easy.
Sounds wonderful. I'm certainly going to give it a try.
Yes. Now, here's a few more questions for you in the chat room, Andrew. This one is from Sherry. Sherry would like to know, would you describe daydreaming as an unconscious version of lucid dreaming?
Well, again, it depends on how you define daydreaming. Generally, no. Generally, daydreaming is the daytime analog to non-lucid dreaming. So what would be an analog to lucid dreaming is what's sometimes referred to as conscious imagination or visualization practice. Because the difference between daydreaming, usually, again, I would have to ask you what you really mean by it, but for most people, daydreaming is kind of an unconscious reverie, right? You're sitting there, you're not really, there isn't any direct focus or intentionality taking place. You're just letting your mind drift. That's kind of what happens when we have a non-lucid dream. So if you're doing something like conscious imagination, that's more like a lucid dream. And then what you could do, and you can actually practice this technique, by the way. This is yet another technique for lucidity, is you work with conscious imagination practices because it's the same type of mental muscle. If you I noticed this because I've been doing classic Tibetan Buddhist visualization practices for close to 3 decades. And I have definitely noticed that as I get more proficient in my visualization, my dreams get stronger. And it makes total sense because it's the same mind. It's just manifesting in 2 different mediums, 2 different states of consciousness. So generally, daydreaming is more associated with a non-lucid dream.
Very interesting. Now, here is another question. Can you use, this is from Klaatu again, can you use lucid dreaming to manifest an out-of-body experience? One wonders whether aliens are really recounting an event they created minds subconsciously.
Yes, you can. And in the classic dream yoga kind of progression of practices, I believe in my listing, I have it as the 8th stage. You cultivate this what's called special dream body. And yes, indeed. So using certain techniques that I do briefly reference in my book, mostly again through intentionality, you can in fact cultivate a dream body, which is made of, we talked a little bit earlier about, lung or prana, these subtle winds. This subtle dream body is made of what's called prana mind. And so the mind consciousness then rides on this very subtle wind, and it can, in fact, differentiate from the body and, travel to different domains. And the Dalai Lama speaks very playfully about this, by the way. He talks about it in a brilliant book called Sleeping, Dreaming, and Dying. And he jokes very playfully about how this could actually create the perfect spy, which is a very sweet way.
Wow. Wow. Now, what about the technique where I know Carlos Castaneda talks about seeing your hands in a dream?
Yes, 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 it is. In The Art of Dreaming, Carlos talks about that. It's a way to work with a dream sign approach, and indeed, it's a good thing to do. And so that the basis behind what Castaneda is talking about there is creating some type of indicator, some type of sign, literally called dream sign, so that when you're in the dream state, you can clue into the fact that you're dreaming. And so this harks back to what I mentioned earlier. One of the biggest problems we have with normal non-lucid dreams, of course, is we don't know that we're dreaming when we're dreaming. We take everything at face value. A pink elephant walks into the room, you don't question it. That's what defines non-lucidity. So what you can do with Castaneda's technique is you can set the intention that, hey, if I see my hands in the dream, or if I pull my hands up and look at them in the dream, that to me, I'm going to use that as a dream sign to clue me into the fact that I am dreaming. So yes, indeed, I've used it, and it's very effective.
Good. All right. And here's something from Denise. She said, just joining the show, most times when I'm lucid dreaming, I am dreaming about loved ones that have passed on. Do you believe that we are really with that loved one?
Oh, boy. Can't we just talk about the Denver Broncos?
Yeah. That's a good question, because I know a lot of people talk about either
I'm joking.
People that have passed come to visit them. Mm-hmm. In this case, Denise is saying she's going to visit.
Yes.
But, I've found many times that is, in fact, what's happening. They're actually making contact. Do you think so?
Here's the trick with this. It depends on the worldview and the belief system that you house. So with that in mind, in the tradition that I have found most resonant with my experience, which is obviously the Buddhist and in particular Tibetan Buddhist tradition, in that school of thinking, it's extraordinarily rare for a being to not take on a next form, a next incarnation after, about a 49-day period. There are some exceptions, of course, so we shouldn't hold that rule too fast. So generally, what I would put forth is a worldview that speaks to me. And again, I'm not challenging her worldview, Denise, but this is the one that speaks to me most clearly, is that more often than not, what appears to you in the dream is a deeper aspect of your own being arising in the form of those relatives. Again, that's not to say that what you're saying is true. I'm not in a position of authority to answer that. But in my experience, it's like when we have a dream of dead relatives, a dream of a teacher. To me, I find it more compelling and more interesting to argue that that's a deeper aspect of my own psyche arising in that particular form as a way, in fact, to often deliver a message. And here's the important thing, and this is really, to me, the important thing. It's the actual presence of that entity, being, teacher, relative. That's what's important. In other words, the phenomenal appearance is what's important. And by that, the reason it's important is that a person does not have to be physically present for a relationship to either be sustained or healed. I mean, this is one reason therapy works, because you can cure a relationship with a person who's died in therapy, and the person's not there physically. They're there phenomenally. They appear to you. The same type of phenomenal appearance can take place in a dream. And studies have shown you can use the dream state, especially a lucid dream state, to create, this heightened new relationship. Because as we know, the death may be the end of a physical body. Death is not the end of a relationship. And that relationship can continue. And the phenomenal appearance of that being is really more important, in my opinion, than was it really them? Honestly, to me, it doesn't really make that much difference to me. But I can see why for some people it might. And I'm not going to argue that. If it brings you a sense of solace and contentment, if it brings you a sense of peace, I would say take refuge and trust your own wisdom. Really, the fundamental wisdom we have to take refuge is in what we have in our own heart and mind. And then, as I started in my answer, different worldviews, different philosophies, and different systems will have different ways of answering that. So something like that.
Yeah, that's very interesting answer. Mm-hmm. Yes, it's just such an empowering technique to be able to remember your dreams. I mean, it really does give you power in so many different ways in your life. I've even heard of women who are pregnant and throughout their pregnancy kept a dream journal, and they worked out a lot of their pregnancy fears, potential health problems during their pregnancy, all through dreaming. And right. You probably know the research on this. It was very interesting that the women who did this actually had less problems.
That's true. Yeah, it's absolutely true. And again, the literature is rich with these types of stories. So, it shows once again, I mean, we're talking more specifically within the context of lucid dreaming altogether, but there is even a broader catchment of practices with which I know, Patricia, you're very familiar with, which is working with dreams altogether, dream interpretation. It's, to me, it's just having more faith in, believing in, and acknowledging the extraordinary opportunities that are available to us every single night. Because, we may turn off the so-called waking conscious mind when we go to sleep, but we do not have to turn off this amazing internal reservoir of inner wisdom as it manifests in dream interpretation, as it can be more kind of consciously cultivated through things like lucid dreaming and dream yoga. But the idea altogether for me is that we're sitting on top, almost literally, of this amazing natural resource, which is the natural resource of our own heart mind. And every night when we go to sleep, whether we know it or not, whether we're lucid to it or not, we have the opportunity to tap into this, to mine this absolute gold of our unconscious and then even superconscious mind. And then the opportunities for transformation there are really without peer. I mean, the literature is replete. There are more opportunities for psychospiritual development in the sleep and dream state than there are in the waking state, when the mind is more fluid and malleable and transformative. And my experience in 4 decades of doing these practices most certainly bears that out.
Well, I have another story.
Cool.
Good. Go for it.
Now, I've been doing my own dream work for many, many years, but my husband never remembers his dreams, really. And we were looking at getting a puppy, a Shih Tzu puppy. And we went to a breeder, and we saw the adorable puppies, and he really bonded with one of the puppies. And I love puppies. I mean, I just was ready to take them all home. But anyways, he picked this one puppy out, or this puppy picked us, I should say. And because the Shih Tzus are smaller dogs, you're not supposed to take them home until they're about 12 weeks old. So they were about 6 weeks old at the time. And one morning I woke up and I told my husband, I said, I had this dream last night that the little puppy came to me and said that there was a problem with the wood stove. And he wanted us to take him home sooner rather than later. Now, this breeder did have a wood stove where the dogs were and the puppies were. And my husband then surprised the heck out of me and said, I had the same dream.
Oh, wow.
Only in my dream, the wood stove set off a fire and it burned the whole house down. So I said, that's it. We're going to take this puppy home sooner rather than later. And there's no getting around it. This is what we're going to do, because it was such a profound experience for both of us to have such a similar dream that the puppy came to each of us and said, get me out of here. So anyways, I called the breeder. I said, look, we'd like to pick him up at 8 weeks. And now we're very responsible pet owners. And I can reassure you that he'll be in safe hands.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And it really, Patricia, what it triggered for me is, and this is a really important thing about these practices, is that just like your dream to note, and I'm sure others who have had really powerful dreams can attest, because you're working with such deep dimensions of being when we have these types of dreams, in these deep nocturnal experiences, you don't have to have them all the time. So, people often wonder, I can't have lucid dreams all the time. I'm not going to be able to reap the benefits. No, it doesn't work that way. It's really a little bit like what happens when a person has like a near-death experience, or an experience like you have. You don't have to have an NDE, a near-death experience, over and over. You only need to have one.
Yeah, one time.
Because it's so powerful, it's so deep, it's so transformative. One experience like that can change your entire life. And even
there's another piece to the story. So after we brought the little puppy home, a couple weeks later, I called the breeder. I said, how's everything? How are the puppies doing? She said, oh my God, we had a terrible experience with the wood stove.
Oh, wow.
All the puppies got sick. So
there you go.
There you go. There's the rest of the story where this puppy communicated with us. Of course, we had to name him Hermes, the messenger.
Oh, fantastic.
But anyways, it was an amazing, amazing experience. And this is, again, the reason I'm telling everybody this tonight. I want to encourage everyone to please pay attention to your dreams. Do this little bit of attention and work on yourselves, because the rewards are just so great. They're so amazing. I mean, look at this amazing experience that we had that has bonded us to this puppy dog forever and ever. He's, of course, still with us 10 years later. And I mean, if I hadn't been paying attention, we wouldn't have gotten the message, and our puppy would have been, with the rest of them getting sick, and he's the only one that avoided it. So, but because I was paying attention, my husband had no choice but to pay attention.
And I love the I told you so's.
Yeah, well, he had the same dream. So it was remarkable. But again, like you said, Andrew, it doesn't have to happen every night. That's right. But when it happens, I mean, here's an experience that will never leave me. And it was so profound. And again, it allows me to share this with others, to inspire people, as I know you do all the time, to do this work and to pay attention to your dreams. There is no greater power than that.
Yeah, I think so too. And really, how many people can talk about one dream that shape-shifted their entire life? And so why not cultivate this relationship a little bit more consciously? Why not open lines of communication, start the conversation, and really the benefits are, when you start to explore this material, the benefits are almost too good to be true.
They really are.
But they are true. Yeah.
Yes. And now I want to, again, encourage people to get your book, Dream Yoga, Illuminating Your Life Through Lucid Dreaming and the Tibetan Yogas of Sleep. You just finished teaching a course at Mind Valley. So that was an online course. Anybody can also participate in future courses that you're offering. And you also have a website, andrewholecek.com, where people can contact you. They can watch videos. They can learn even more about yoga dreaming, lucid dreaming, the difference between the two, which we didn't even get really to talk about. There's just so much here. My God, Andrew, you got to come back.
For sure. It's been great fun.
Well, thank you so much. This has been a total pleasure. And please keep us posted. We know you have 2 more books coming out. Let us know. We're going to have you back for sure. And everybody, gosh, many blessings. Thanksgiving tomorrow. That's a big holiday, a lot of food to eat. So we hope you have a wonderful holiday. Next week, we have Psychedelic Marine. It's a great story. You are never going to forget this one. Be sure to tune in. And in the meantime, we'll see you on the Blue Highway. Good night, everyone.
Good night. Happy holiday.
Bye.